I never thought I'd be writing this, but my therapist suggested it might help to get everything out. I'm 32 now, and what happened when I was 16 still affects me every single day. This is going to be long, and I apologize in advance, but there's no way to tell this story without all the context. It's been 16 years since my father looked me in the eye and called me a disgrace. 16 years since my entire family turned their backs on me because of a lie my brother told. A lie so devastating, so perfectly crafted, that it destroyed everything I knew in a single night. But this isn't just a story about being disowned. It's about what came after, about the truth that eventually surfaced, and about the revenge I never planned but somehow achieved anyway. My name is Marcus, and I grew up in what everyone thought was the perfect family. My father, Robert, was a successful corporate lawyer, the kind of man who commanded respect the moment he walked into a room. My mother, Patricia, came from old money and spent her time on charity boards and country club committees. We lived in a massive house in an exclusive suburb, the kind with a circular driveway and a fountain in the front yard. From the outside, we had everything. But like most perfect-looking families, ours was rotting from the inside. My brother Damien was 2 years older than me, and from the day I was born, I think he resented my existence. See, Damien had been the golden child, the center of attention until I came along. My parents, especially my father, had very specific expectations. Excellence wasn't just encouraged, it was demanded. Straight A's, athletic achievements, leadership positions, elite university admissions, these weren't goals, they were the baseline. Damien struggled with this. He was smart enough, but he lacked discipline. He'd coast by with B's and C's, making excuses, blaming teachers, never quite living up to the image my father had of his sons. I, on the other hand, was naturally driven. I didn't do it for my parents' approval, at least not consciously. I just genuinely loved learning. I loved the feeling of mastering something difficult, whether it was calculus or varsity debate or piano. By the time I was 16, I was captain of the debate team, first chair violin in the youth symphony, taking AP classes and being recruited by Ivy League schools. I didn't flaunt it. I actually tried to downplay my achievements around Damien because I could see how it affected him, how our father would compare us, how his jaw would tighten when my name came up at dinner. The comparison game was my father's favorite sport. He'd sit at the head of our dining table, cutting his steak with surgical precision, and casually mention how I'd won another award or how disappointed he was in Damien's latest report card. My mother would try to smooth things over, but she was weak, always deferring to my father's judgment. Damien would sit there, his face getting redder, his knuckles white as he gripped his fork. I tried to change the subject, but the damage was always done. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. The resentment in Damien's eyes had been building for years, but I was young and naive, and despite everything, he was my brother. I loved him. I looked up to him, even. I thought the tension was just normal sibling stuff that we'd grow out of. I had no idea that he was planning to destroy me. The lie came during the spring of my junior year. I was 16, Damien was 18, and in his senior year. He'd already been rejected from his first-choice schools and was heading to a state university in the fall, something my father barely tried to hide his disappointment about. Meanwhile, I was being courted by Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. The contrast was stark, and the atmosphere in our house was tense. There was a girl involved, because of course there was. Her name was Claire, and she was Damien's girlfriend. She was beautiful, smart, and honestly too good for him. Claire was in my grade, and we'd been assigned as lab partners in AP chemistry. We got along well, studied together sometimes, talked about books and music. It was completely innocent. I had my own girlfriend, Jessica, and I had zero romantic interest in Claire. But Damien saw conspiracy in every conversation, threat in every friendship. One night in April, everything fell apart. I was in my room working on a college essay when I heard my father's car pull into the driveway earlier than usual. Then I heard the front door slam so hard the whole house shook. My father's voice was bellowing from downstairs, a roar of pure rage that made my blood run cold. "Marcus, get down here right now." I'd never heard him sound like that. My father was always controlled, even in anger. This was different. This was volcanic. I came downstairs, my heart pounding, and found my entire family in the living room. My mother was crying, her hand over her mouth. Damien was sitting on the couch, his face buried in his hands, his shoulders shaking. My father stood in the center of the room, his face purple with fury. "Dad, what's wrong?" I asked. He crossed the room so fast I barely saw him move, and then his hand connected with my face in a slap that sent me staggering. I'd never been hit by him before. The shock was almost worse than the pain. "How dare you?" he hissed. "How dare you?" "Robert," my mother gasped, but she didn't move to help me. I held my burning cheek, completely disoriented. What did I do? I don't understand. "Don't you lie to me," my father shouted. "Don't you stand there and play innocent. Your brother told us everything." I looked at Damien, who wouldn't meet my eyes. "Told you what?" My father's lip curled in disgust. "About you and Claire, about what you did to her." The room started spinning. "What? Claire and I are just friends. We're lab partners. I don't." Stop lying, the force of his shout made me flinch. Damien came to me today devastated because Claire finally broke down and told him the truth. You've been pursuing her for months, making unwanted advances. And last week at that party when she was drunk, he couldn't even finish the sentence, his face twisting with revulsion. You assaulted her. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumbled backward. What? No, that's insane. I would never. There was no party. I haven't even seen Claire outside of school. Dad, this is crazy. Claire is at the police station right now, my mother said quietly, her voice thick with tears, giving a statement. I felt like I was in a nightmare. This couldn't be real. This is a mistake, a huge mistake. I didn't do anything. Call Claire, call Jessica, they'll tell you. We called Jessica's house, my father said coldly. Her mother said you and Jessica broke up 2 weeks ago. Another lie. That was true, we had broken up, but it was mutual and amicable. We'd kept it quiet because we didn't want to make it dramatic. Okay, yes, we broke up, but that has nothing to do with. Enough, my father cut me off. I have built a reputation in this community over decades. I am a respected member of the bar, on the board of 3 charities, a deacon at our church. And you entitled little monster, have destroyed all of it in one night. I didn't do anything, I was shouting now, desperate. Damien is lying. Why would Claire say this? It's not true. Damien finally looked up, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood run cold. There was triumph there, satisfaction, barely concealed behind a mask of anguish. He stood up, walked over to my father, and put a hand on his shoulder. I know this is hard to accept, Dad, he said, his voice shaking with false emotion. He's your son, but I saw the texts on Claire's phone, the things he was saying to her, the pressure he was putting on her. She showed me everything before she deleted them. She was so ashamed. And at the party, I heard from 3 different people that they saw Marcus go into the bedroom with Claire when she could barely walk. You're a liar, I screamed at him. There was no party, there are no texts. Why are you doing this? Because I can't protect him anymore, Damien said, looking at our father with those false, earnest eyes. I know he's my little brother. I wanted to handle it quietly, to make him apologize and leave Claire alone. But when she told me what he actually did to her, he choked up convincingly. I couldn't keep covering for him. Some things are too serious. I never asked you to cover for anything because I didn't do anything. My voice was cracking, panic setting in. My father looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, pure disgust, like I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. You're a disgrace, he said quietly. I don't know what I did wrong raising you. I gave you everything, every advantage, every opportunity, and this is what you've become. Dad, please, I was begging now, tears streaming down my face. Please listen to me. I swear on everything I love, I didn't touch Claire. I didn't do anything wrong. Damien is lying. I don't know why, but he's lying. Get out, my father said. What? Get out of my house. You have 1 hour to pack your essentials. I'll have the rest of your things sent wherever you end up, but I will not have a rapist living under my roof. The word felt like a knife. I'm not a rapist, Mom, please. I turned to my mother desperately. She was crying harder now, but she shook her head. How could you, Marcus? That poor girl, I can't even look at you. You're both insane. You're taking his word over mine without any proof. There will be proof enough when the police investigate, my father said. And when they come for you, don't expect me to help. I'll cooperate fully with their investigation. If I could, I'd drive you to the station myself and watch them put you in handcuffs. I looked at Damien one more time. Why? I asked him simply. For just a second the mask slipped and he smiled, just a tiny quirk of his lips there and gone. I'm sorry you're going through this, Marcus, he said. I really hope you get the help you need. I wanted to attack him. Every muscle in my body was screaming at me to launch myself at him, to beat the truth out of him. But I knew that would only make things worse, so I turned and went upstairs, my mind reeling, trying to figure out what to do. I called Claire. It went straight to voicemail. I called again and again. Nothing. I tried texting her. The messages went through, but no response came. I sat on my bed, surrounded by the life I'd built, the awards on my walls, the books I loved, the acceptance letters from universities that wouldn't want me once this accusation became public, and I realized how completely I'd been destroyed. One perfectly constructed lie, and everything was gone. I packed a duffel bag with clothes, grabbed my laptop and phone, took the $800 I had saved from birthday gifts and odd jobs, and walked out of the only home I'd ever known. My parents didn't say goodbye. Damien watched from the living room window as I walked down the driveway, and I swear to God he was smiling. I was 16 years old and I was homeless. First few nights were the worst. I slept in the park, hiding in a playground structure, terrified and alone. I kept expecting the police to find me to arrest me. Every siren made me jump. I was in shock, I think, unable to fully process what had happened. During the day, I'd go to school pretending everything was normal, but word was already spreading. Claire had told people. The story was that I'd assaulted her at a party, and that she'd been too traumatized to come forward until now. People I'd known for years looked at me with suspicion and disgust. Girls moved away from me in hallways. Guys I'd been friends with shoved me, called me names. My debate coach pulled me aside and said I was off the team pending investigation. The principal called me to her office and strongly suggested I consider alternative schooling arrangements. Jessica found me in the library one afternoon. I thought maybe she'd be on my side. She knew me, knew I wasn't capable of what I was being accused of. But she just looked at me with cold eyes and said, "I always thought there was something off about you." Then she walked away. I tried to reach out to Claire again. I managed to catch her outside of school one day and I asked her desperately why she was doing this. She looked at me with what seemed like genuine sorrow and said, "I'm sorry, Marcus, but people need to be held accountable." Then she got in Damien's car and they drove off together. That's when I realized Claire was in on it. This wasn't just Damien manipulating her. She had actively participated in this lie, maybe even helped plan it. The betrayal was so complete, so total, that I couldn't even cry anymore. I lived on the streets for 2 weeks before a teacher, Mr. Harrison, noticed something was wrong. He was my English teacher, a kind man in his 50s who actually paid attention to his students. He saw that I was wearing the same clothes multiple days in a row, that I was falling asleep in class, that I had lost weight. He pulled me aside after class one day and just asked, "Marcus, are you okay?" And I broke down. I told him everything. About the accusation, about being kicked out, about living in the park. I didn't tell him about the assault allegations specifically, just that there had been a huge fight with my family over false accusations. He listened, really listened, and then he did something that saved my life. Mr. Harrison and his wife Anne didn't have children of their own. They had a spare bedroom, and they offered to let me stay with them temporarily while I figured things out. They didn't ask too many questions, didn't judge, just offered basic human kindness when I needed it most. Living with the Harrisons gave me stability, but it didn't solve my larger problems. The accusation was still hanging over me. I waited for the police to come, for charges to be filed, but weeks passed and nothing happened. I later learned why. Claire never actually filed a police report. The whole thing about her being at the station was a lie too. She told Damien she would if needed to make the story convincing, but she never actually went through with it. Maybe because she knew that a real investigation would expose the lie. There was no party, no witnesses, no rape kit, no evidence whatsoever. Filing a false police report is a crime, and I think even Damien was smart enough to realize that actually involving the law would backfire. But the damage was done. In the court of public opinion, I was already convicted. The rumor mill had churned and everyone knew what I'd done. My college prospects evaporated. Harvard and Yale quietly withdrew their interest. Princeton sent a formal letter saying that given recent concerning allegations, they were reconsidering my application. I finished my junior year barely holding it together. Mr. Harrison helped me transfer to a different school for my senior year in a different district where no one knew my name or the accusations. It meant a longer commute, leaving earlier, getting back later, but it gave me a chance to exist without the constant stares and whispers. During this time, I had to grow up fast. The Harrisons helped me apply for legal emancipation, which was granted given that my parents had effectively abandoned me. I got a job working nights at a grocery store, stocking shelves from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., then going to school exhausted. My grades slipped for the first time in my life. I was too tired, too depressed, too traumatized to maintain my previous excellence. But I survived. Day by day, I survived. I didn't think about revenge. I didn't have the energy for it. I just focused on getting through each day, on graduating, on rebuilding some kind of life from the ashes of the one Damien had burned down. Then, about 8 months after I'd been kicked out, something unexpected happened. I was working my overnight shift, mindlessly stocking cans of soup when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Marcus," a female voice, uncertain. "Yeah, who is this?" It's Claire." I froze, a can of tomato soup in my hand. I hadn't spoken to her since that day outside school. "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you, in person, please, it's important." "I have nothing to say to you." "Marcus, please, I need to explain, I need to tell you the truth." Something in her voice made me pause. She sounded desperate, scared. "The truth? You mean how you lied and helped destroy my life?" "Yes," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, please just meet me once, let me explain." Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a 24-hour diner after my shift ended. I brought Mr. Harrison with me, both as a witness and for safety. Claire arrived alone and she looked terrible. She'd lost weight, had dark circles under her eyes, and seemed to have aged years in months. We sat in a booth in the back. Mr. Harrison sat at the counter, close enough to intervene if needed, but giving us space. Claire ordered coffee with shaking hands and then just stared at it for a long moment. "I don't know where to start," she finally said. "How about why you lied?" I said flatly. She flinched. "It's so much worse than you think." And then she told me everything. Claire had been dating Damien for about a year before this all happened. At first he'd been charming, attentive, everything a girl could want, but slowly things had changed. He became controlling, jealous, possessive. He'd go through her phone, interrogate her about who she talked to, isolate her from friends. She tried to break up with him multiple times, but he'd always talk her back, promising to change, sometimes crying, sometimes subtly threatening. When we became lab partners and started studying together, Damien's jealousy went into overdrive. He was convinced we were having an affair, despite Claire's constant reassurances. He'd show up at the library when we studied, watching from a distance. He'd text her constantly when we were together, demanding to know exactly what we were doing. "He was obsessed with you," Claire said quietly. "Not just jealous, obsessed. He'd talk about you constantly, about how you were the favorite, how your dad loved you more, how you got everything handed to you while he had to struggle. It was like he couldn't see anything else." Then one night, about a month before I was kicked out, Damien came to Claire with a plan. He'd been thinking about it for a while, working out the details. He wanted her to accuse me of assault. He had the whole story mapped out, a party that never happened, unwanted advances, a drunken assault. He'd coach her on exactly what to say, who to tell, how to make it convincing. I said no, Claire said, tears starting to flow. Of course I said no, it was insane, but Damien, she paused, swallowing hard. He had videos of me from when we'd been intimate. I didn't know he was recording. He showed them to me and said if I didn't help him, he'd send them to everyone. My parents, my friends, the school, colleges. He'd ruin me. I felt sick, so you decided to ruin me instead. "I know," she sobbed. "I know, I was scared and weak, and I made the worst decision of my life." Damien promised it wouldn't go far, that he just wanted to scare you, to knock you down a peg, to show your dad you weren't perfect. He said you'd probably just get grounded or maybe have to switch schools. I didn't realize he was going to get you kicked out. When I heard you were homeless, I wanted to take it back, but Damien said it was too late, that if I tried to recant, he'd say I was just covering for you and he'd release the videos anyway. "You could have come forward anyway," I said, my voice hard. "You could have told the truth." "I was 16 and terrified," she cried. "Damien told me that filing a false police report was a crime, that I'd go to jail, that my life would be over. He had me trapped. And he kept promising that things would blow over, that eventually everyone would forget, that you'd land on your feet. He made me believe it wasn't that bad." "Not that bad?" I felt rage rising in me for the first time in months. "I lost everything. My family, my home, my future, my reputation. I've been living with my teacher because I have nowhere else to go. I work overnight shifts to survive. The colleges I worked my entire life to get into want nothing to do with me, and you thought it wasn't that bad." She was full on crying now. "I know, you have every right to hate me. I hate myself. I can't sleep, I can't eat, I can't function. I see your face everywhere. What we did to you, what I did to you, it's destroying me." "Good," I said coldly. "But it's not just guilt," she continued. "It's Damien. He's gotten worse, so much worse. After you left, it was like he couldn't stop. He needed a new target, and it became me. The control got tighter, the threats got darker. He started getting physical. Last week she pulled back her sleeve, showing a bruise in the clear shape of fingers. He said if I ever try to leave him, he'll kill me, and I believe him." "Call the police," I said. "Tell them everything. About the videos, the coercion, the abuse, the false accusation." "I can't, I'm too scared, but I thought maybe you could use this." I wrote everything down. She slid a flash drive across the table. "It's all here, a full confession, explaining exactly what happened, why I lied, how Damien manipulated me. I also have some of his texts to me, the threatening ones. And one of the videos he took without my consent is proof of that. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but maybe this can help you get your life back." I stared at the flash drive like it was a live grenade. This was it. This was the proof that could vindicate me, destroy Damien, maybe even restore my relationship with my family. Everything I'd lost could potentially be recovered. But I was also smart enough to be suspicious. How do I know this isn't another trap, another one of Damien's plans? "You don't," she admitted. "All I can tell you is that I'm so tired of living with this guilt, and I'm terrified of what Damien might do next. If he finds out I gave you this, he might actually kill me, but I had to do something. I had to try to make this right, even a little bit." I took the flash drive and left without another word. Mr. Harrison drove me back to his house and we stayed up all night going through the contents. It was all there exactly as Claire had described. A written confession, time-stamped and detailed. Screenshots of texts from Damien that were chilling in their possessiveness and implied threats. And yes, one of the videos he'd taken of Claire without her knowledge, which was itself a crime in our state. "This is enough," Mr. Harrison said. "This could clear your name." But I didn't move immediately. I'd learned caution the hard way. I made copies of everything, stored them in multiple places, online and offline. I consulted with a lawyer using money I'd saved from my job. The lawyer confirmed that this evidence was substantial and could potentially lead to charges against Damien for creating revenge porn, coercion, and conspiracy to file a false report, even though a report was never technically filed. "What do you want to do?" the lawyer asked me. And that's when I realized something. I didn't want to just clear my name. I wanted justice. Real justice, not just for me, but for Claire too, despite what she'd done, because while she'd made a terrible choice, she was also Damien's victim. But more than that, I wanted my parents to understand the full depth of what they'd done. They'd thrown me out without a second thought, without an investigation, without even considering that their precious elder son might be lying. They'd chosen Damien over me instantly, and I needed them to live with that knowledge. So I waited. I held onto the evidence like a trump card, and I kept living my life. I graduated high school with decent grades, not great anymore, but good enough. I enrolled in community college, planning to work my way up. I kept my head down and focused on survival and building a new life, one that didn't depend on my family's name or money. Meanwhile, I kept tabs on my old life through social media and mutual acquaintances. Damien went to his state school and proceeded to do exactly what everyone expected. He partied, barely passed his classes, and coasted on my father's money. Claire broke up with him during his freshman year of college, apparently finally finding the courage. From what I heard, Damien didn't take it well, but he found a new girlfriend quickly enough. My parents, according to their social media, carried on as if they only had one son. Damien appeared in photos at holidays and family events. I might as well have never existed. That hurt more than I expected. Even after everything, some small part of me had hoped that my mother might reach out, might question the story, might miss me, but there was nothing, just silence. I let 2 years pass. I worked, I studied, I went to therapy to deal with the trauma of what I'd experienced. I got my associate's degree and was preparing to transfer to a 4-year university, applying to good schools under my emancipated name and circumstances, with letters of recommendation from Mr. Harrison and my community college professors. Then one day I got a Facebook message from a name I didn't recognize. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was from a girl named Amy. She was a freshman at Damien's university, and she'd heard my name from someone who knew us both from high school. She wanted to warn me about something. My brother had done it again. Amy's roommate, a girl named Sophie, had accused Damien of sexual assault at a party. She'd been drunk, and according to her account, Damien had led her to his room and assaulted her while she was incapacitated. Sophie had gone to the university administration, and there was an investigation happening. But here's where it got interesting. Damien was using me as his defense. According to Amy, Damien had told everyone that his family had a history of false accusations, that his younger brother, me, had been accused of assault in high school, and it had torn the family apart, and he'd learned from that experience how easy it is for innocent men to be destroyed by lies. He was painting himself as a victim of a vindictive girl, just like I had supposedly been. He was using the lie he'd created to destroy me as a shield for his own actual crimes. I felt something crack inside me. Whatever patience I'd been holding onto, whatever desire to take the high road, it shattered. Damien hadn't just ruined my life for his own jealous satisfaction. He was now leveraging that ruined life to escape consequences for what sounded like a real assault. Enough was enough. I contacted Amy and asked her to put me in touch with Sophie. We met and I told her my story. I showed her the evidence Claire had given me, the confession, the texts, everything. Sophie was understandably shocked and angry, but also relieved. She'd been doubting herself, wondering if maybe she was misremembering what happened, if Damien's story about his family history of false accusations meant she shouldn't be trusted. "You're absolutely right to trust yourself," I told her, "and I'm going to help you make sure he doesn't get away with this." Together, we went to the university administration. I provided them with all the evidence about Damien's previous behavior, the false accusation he'd orchestrated against me, his pattern of manipulation and abuse with Claire. The university's Title IX office was very interested in this information. But I didn't stop there. I also finally went to the police in my hometown. I filed a formal report about what Damien had done to me, the conspiracy to make false accusations, the defamation, the coercion of Claire. I provided all the evidence. Then I did something I'd been avoiding for 2 years. I called my father. He answered on the third ring. Hello. Hi, Dad. There was a long pause. Marcus. Yeah, it's me. Another pause. What do you want? I thought I made it clear that you're not part of this family anymore. His coldness was like a slap, but I was ready for it. I'm calling to let you know that you're going to be hearing from some people soon. Police, maybe reporters, definitely the administration at Damien's school. What are you talking about? The truth is coming out, Dad, about what really happened 2 years ago, about the fact that I never assaulted anyone, that Damien made the whole thing up, that Claire was coerced into lying. I have evidence. I have a full confession, and I've provided it to the authorities. I heard him inhale sharply. That's ridiculous. Why would Damien? Because he hated me, because you constantly compared him to me and he couldn't handle it. Because he's a manipulative, abusive person who has now actually assaulted someone at his university and tried to use the lie he told about me as his defense. That's why. This is absurd. You're making this up. I have Claire's full written confession, Dad. I have texts from Damien showing his abuse and manipulation. I have evidence that he recorded Claire without her consent. And now there's a girl at his university who he assaulted, and I'm helping her build a case against him. The truth is coming out whether you want to believe it or not. If you're trying to get revenge on your brother because you're jealous. Jealous? I laughed, a harsh sound. Of what? Being believed, being kept in the family? You chose him over me without a second thought, Dad, without an investigation, without a question, without even considering that I might be telling the truth. You called me a disgrace and threw me out when I was 16 years old. I'm not jealous of Damien, I pity him. And honestly, I pity you too. How dare you? You're going to be contacted soon. When you are, you'll see the evidence. You'll know that I was telling the truth all along, and you're going to have to live with the fact that you abandoned your innocent son to protect your guilty one. I just wanted to give you the heads up. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up before he could respond. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The university suspended Damien pending investigation. The police in my hometown opened an investigation into the false accusation conspiracy. News of the case started spreading, first locally, then more widely, because it had all the elements the media loves. A false accusation, a real assault, a family torn apart, evidence of innocence emerging years later. Claire was interviewed by police. She confirmed everything in her written statement and provided additional details. She was granted immunity in exchange for her cooperation, which I supported. She'd been a victim too, in her own way, and she'd ultimately done the right thing by coming forward. My parents were forced to confront the evidence. The police showed them Claire's confession, the texts, everything. According to a mutual friend who heard it secondhand, my mother had a complete breakdown when she realized the truth. My father, characteristically, went into lawyer mode, trying to minimize the damage and protect Damien. But there was no protecting him this time. The evidence was too solid. The university expelled Damien after their investigation concluded. Sophie's case, bolstered by the evidence of his prior bad acts, resulted in him being charged with sexual assault. He was arrested, and my father had to bail him out. The story made regional news. Local student exonerated after 2 years following brother's false accusation. My name was cleared publicly. The newspapers interviewed me, and I told my story carefully and factually. I didn't embellish, didn't exaggerate, just laid out what had happened. The community that had shunned me was suddenly sympathetic. People reached out to apologize, to say they should have given me the benefit of the doubt. I accepted some apologies and ignored others. Jessica, my ex-girlfriend who'd said there was something off about me, sent a long email full of regrets and excuses. I deleted it without responding. The colleges that had rejected me sent letters acknowledging that their decisions had been based on incomplete information. It was too late to undo those rejections, but it was something. I was already enrolled in a good 4-year university as a transfer student anyway, on a merit scholarship I'd earned through my community college work. Through all of this, my parents didn't contact me directly. Not an apology, not an explanation, nothing. The silence was deafening. Until about a month after the news broke, when my mother showed up at my apartment. I was living in a small studio near my university by then, working part-time and going to school full-time. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, looking small and old in a way I didn't remember, I didn't know what to feel. "Marcus," she said quietly, "may I come in?" I considered saying no, but curiosity won out. I stepped aside and let her enter. She looked around my tiny apartment, taking in the sparse furniture, the textbooks stacked everywhere, the life I'd built without any help from her. "You've done well for yourself," she said. "No thanks to you." She flinched. "I deserve that." "You deserve a lot more than that." She sat down on my second-hand couch and I noticed she was crying. "I don't know how to say how sorry I am. I don't think there are words." "You could start by explaining how you could throw your 16-year-old son out on the street without even investigating whether the accusation was true." "Your father was so certain," she said weakly, "and Damien was so convincing. The story had so many details. And I was your son. Didn't that count for anything? Didn't you know me at all?" "I thought I did, but when faced with such a serious accusation, I second-guessed everything. Your father said that predators are often people you'd never suspect, that they hide in plain sight. He convinced me that we couldn't let our love for you blind us to the truth. Except it wasn't the truth, and if you'd done even the slightest investigation, you'd have found that out. There was no party, no witnesses, no evidence, just Damien's word and Claire's coerced statement." "I know," she sobbed. "I know. I've been living with the guilt every day since we saw the evidence. Marcus, I abandoned you. I let your father throw you out and I didn't fight for you. I didn't protect you. I failed you in every possible way a mother can fail a child." "Yes," I said simply, "you did. Is there any way at all, that you could forgive me, that we could rebuild our relationship?" I looked at this woman who'd given birth to me, raised me, and then cast me aside when it became inconvenient to believe me. I thought about the 16-year-old kid sleeping in a park, terrified and alone, wondering why his mother didn't love him enough to take his side. "I don't know," I said honestly. "What you did caused damage that I'm still dealing with. I have trust issues, abandonment issues. I'm in therapy twice a week. You didn't just kick me out, Mom. You broke something fundamental in me." "I know, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to make it right, if you'll let me." "What about Dad?" Her face tightened. "Your father is struggling with this. He's angry at Damien, at himself, at the situation. He's not ready to admit the full extent of his mistake." "Of course he's not," I said bitterly. "But I am," she continued. "I'm ready to own what I did and try to repair it however I can. I know I can't undo it. I know I can't give you back those 2 years, but I want to be in your life again if you'll allow it." I wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to throw her out, to let her feel a fraction of the rejection I'd felt. But another part of me, the part that was still that kid who just wanted his mom to love him, was tempted. "I need time," I finally said. "I'm not saying no forever, but I'm not ready to just welcome you back like nothing happened. You need to prove that you've changed, that you're willing to actually be a parent who trusts and supports me." "Whatever it takes," she said, "however long it takes." "And Dad? What about him? When he's ready to apologize, really apologize and take responsibility, he can reach out, but I'm not holding my breath." She nodded, accepting this. We talked for a while longer, awkward and painful, but it was a start. When she left, she hugged me and I let her, but I didn't hug back. I wasn't ready for that yet. Over the next several months, my mother did try. She'd call once a week, respecting my boundaries when I said I was too busy to talk. She'd send care packages with food and supplies, never money, because she knew I'd refuse it. She came to my university when I gave a presentation at an academic conference, sitting in the back, clapping when I finished. It was slow and it was hard, and I'm still not sure if I'll ever fully forgive her, but it was something. My father, true to form, never reached out. According to my mother, he was consumed with Damien's legal troubles. The criminal case for the assault on Sophie was moving forward and it looked bad for him. My father had hired expensive lawyers, but the evidence was strong, especially combined with the pattern of behavior established by what he'd done to me. Damien eventually took a plea deal. He pled guilty to sexual assault and got 3 years in prison with 5 years probation after. He'd also have to register as a sex offender. My father was apparently devastated, unable to accept that his son was a criminal. I felt nothing when I heard about the conviction. No satisfaction, no vindication, just a hollow emptiness. Damien had destroyed lives, mine and Sophie's and Claire's, and now he was facing consequences. But it didn't undo any of the damage. Claire reached out to me after Damien was sentenced. We met for coffee, another awkward meeting full of pain and regret. "I'm so sorry," she said for what must have been the 100th time. "I know I keep saying it, but I don't know what else to say." "You came forward in the end," I acknowledged. "That took courage." "It took too long. You suffered for 2 years because of my cowardice." "You were suffering too. Damien was abusing you." "That doesn't excuse what I did." "No," I agreed, "it doesn't, but it provides context." We talked about how we were both doing. She was in therapy too, dealing with the trauma of Damien's abuse and the guilt of what she'd participated in. She deferred college for a year to focus on her mental health, and now she was enrolled in a school across the country, trying to start fresh. "Do you think you'll ever really forgive me?" she asked. I considered the question carefully. "I don't know. What you did was terrible, even if you were coerced. You helped destroy my life, but you also ultimately gave me the evidence to get it back. You were both villain and savior in this story. I'm still working out how I feel about that." She nodded, accepting this. "For what it's worth, I think about you every day, about what we did to you. It haunts me." "Good," I said, not unkindly. "It should. Let it make you a better person." We parted ways after that, and I don't know if I'll ever see her again. Maybe that's for the best. Life moved forward. I finished my bachelor's degree with honors. I got into a good graduate program for psychology, inspired by my own experiences with therapy and trauma. I wanted to help other people who'd been betrayed and abandoned, who'd had to rebuild their lives from nothing. Mr. Harrison and his wife Anne remained constant presences in my life. They came to my graduation, cheering louder than anyone. Mr. Harrison walked me down the aisle at my eventual wedding because I had no father to do it. They're grandparents to my children now, in all the ways that matter. My relationship with my mother slowly, painfully improved. She came to my graduation too, sitting separately from the Harrisons, respecting that they were my real family now. She's met my wife and my kids. She sends birthday gifts and holiday cards. We have a relationship of sorts. It's not what it was and it never will be, but it's more than nothing. My father and I never reconciled. He sent a letter once, about 5 years after everything came out. It wasn't quite an apology, more of an explanation. He talked about how convincing Damien had been, how realistic the accusations seemed, how he'd been trying to do the right thing. He said he regretted how things had unfolded, but he never quite said "I'm sorry" or "I was wrong." I didn't respond. What would be the point? Damien served his time and got out of prison. I have no idea what he's doing now, and I don't care to know. We have no relationship, and we never will again. He's a stranger to me, less than a stranger. He's a cautionary tale, a reminder of how jealousy and resentment can poison someone completely. Sometimes people ask me if I got my revenge, if destroying Damien's life the way he destroyed mine brought me satisfaction. The answer is complicated. I didn't destroy Damien's life, he destroyed his own through his choices and actions. I just made sure the truth came out. There's a difference. Did it feel good to be vindicated? Yes. Did it feel good to have my name cleared? Absolutely. Did it feel good to know that Damien faced consequences? In a way. But it didn't give me back those 2 years. It didn't erase the trauma of being homeless at 16, of being abandoned by my family, of being accused of one of the worst crimes imaginable. It didn't undo the nights I spent hungry and cold and afraid. It didn't restore my innocence or my trust in the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. The real revenge, if you can call it that, was building a good life anyway. It was succeeding despite everything that happened. It was finding people who actually loved and supported me, like the Harrisons. It was getting my degrees, building my career, starting my family. It was proving that Damien's attempt to destroy me had ultimately failed. I'm 32 now, and I have a life I'm proud of. I have a wife I love, 2 beautiful kids, a career that fulfills me. I have real friends and real family, people who chose to be in my life and who I chose in return. I have security and stability and peace. And Damien has a criminal record, a destroyed reputation, and the knowledge that his jealousy cost him everything. Last I heard from my mother, he's working odd jobs and can barely look anyone in the eye. My father, who built his whole identity on his reputation and success, has been largely ostracized from his social circles because of the scandal. They lost friends, standing, respect. They made their choices, they're living with the consequences. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that moment when I came downstairs and my father slapped me. I think about standing in my childhood home, begging my parents to believe me and seeing nothing but disgust in their eyes. I think about the crushing weight of that betrayal, how completely it shattered my world. And then I look around at the life I've built, at my daughter sleeping in her bed, at my wife reading beside me, at the home I've created that's filled with actual love and trust. And I realized that while I lost my original family, I gained something more valuable, the knowledge of who I really am, independent of their approval or acceptance. The kid who was called a disgrace and thrown away became a man who built his own worth. That's the real ending to this story, not revenge, not vindication, but survival and growth. Damien tried to destroy me, and for a while he nearly succeeded, but in the end I survived, I rebuilt, I thrived. And that's the best revenge of all. I do want to add one final update, because something happened recently that felt like a closing of the circle. Last month I was giving a talk at a conference about trauma recovery in adolescence. It's something I do occasionally now, speaking publicly about my experiences to help others who have gone through similar situations. After my presentation, a young woman approached me, probably about 19 or 20. "Dr. Marcus," she said nervously, "I just wanted to thank you, your story, it helped me." I smiled at her. "I'm glad, that's why I share it." "No, I mean, it really helped me. I was falsely accused of something at school last year. Everyone believed the lie and I almost gave up. But I heard you speak at another event and it gave me hope that the truth could come out. I kept fighting and eventually it did. I'm cleared now and I'm starting college in the fall." My throat got tight. "I'm so proud of you. That takes incredible strength." "You inspired me," she said simply. "You showed me that even when everything falls apart, you can build it back, so thank you." After she walked away, I had to take a moment to compose myself. That's when it really hit me. The worst thing that ever happened to me, the most painful betrayal I could imagine, had somehow been transformed into something that could help others. My suffering had meaning beyond just my own story. Damien had tried to make me a disgrace. Instead, he inadvertently set me on a path that led to me helping countless others who'd been betrayed and abandoned. If that's not poetic justice, I don't know what is. So to anyone reading this who's been betrayed by family, falsely accused, thrown away by the people who were supposed to love you, it's not the end. It feels like it. God knows it felt like the end for me when I was 16 and homeless and scared, but it's not. You can survive this, you can rebuild. You can create a life that's even better than the one you lost, because it will be built on truth and strength and the love of people who actually deserve you. Your family is supposed to be the people who know you and love you unconditionally, but sometimes the family you're born into fails you. When that happens, you have permission to build your own family from people who actually show up for you, who believe you, who support you. The Harrisons saved my life by offering basic human kindness when I needed it most. They didn't have to, they chose to, and that choice made all the difference. So find your Harrisons, find the people who see your worth even when you can't see it yourself. Let them help you rebuild, and when you're strong enough, help someone else do the same. That's how we transform betrayal into something meaningful. That's how we win. As for my father calling me a disgrace, he was wrong. I'm not a disgrace. I'm a survivor. I'm a fighter. I'm someone who was knocked down as hard as a person can be knocked down and who got back up anyway. And there's no disgrace in that. There's only strength.
No charges left.
Sí, claro, sí, claro.
सी पाए तो बताना।
Sí, करो.
Spike planted. Last player standing.
छी यार।
Done. Smoke's up.
Attackers win.
बहुत अच्छा था।